This is Mrs. Wainwright's Math Class, Chapter 3, Lesson 3C, Comparing Place Value Positions and Comparing Decimals with Algebra. Our learning target by the end of this lesson, you should confidently be able to say, I can compare decimals and find the first place value position in which they differ, and I can find the missing digit when comparing decimals. Example number 1 says, name the greatest place value position where the digits differ. Differ is in the word different, so I want the greatest place value position where the digits are different. And then it says name the greater number, so there's two tasks I have to do here. The numbers they give me are 6 and 378 thousandths, and 6 and 742 thousandths. So my first step is to take my first number and write it down. 6.378. My next step is to take my second number, write it underneath the first, lining up my decimals. So here's my decimal, put it under my other decimal. To the left I have a 6, so to the left I write a 6. To the right I have 742, so to the right I'll write 742. Fill in any missing place value columns, and here they're all even. There's a 6 and a 6, a 3 and a 7, 7 and 4, 8 and a 2, so they're all even. They each have a digit in each column. And now I'm going to compare to find where they're different. So again, I read it from left to right, just like I read a sentence. 6's are the same, so I can't compare. And right here, they're different. 3 and 7 are different. Which is the larger number? The 7, so as always, I'll circle it. And the first direction told me to name the greatest place value position where the digits differ. That dark blue arrow shows me that the digits differ where the 3 and the 7 are. So I need to figure out what's that place value position. Well, I know that the digit before the decimal is the ones place. And I know that the digit after the decimal is the tenths place. And that's where these digits differ. So here's my first part of the answer. The numbers differ in the tenths place because 3 and 7 are the first different numbers, and those are in the tenths place. The next direction it told me my problem was to name the greater number. Well, I always follow the strategy of circling the greater digit where they first differ. So I circled the 7. That means that's going to be the largest number. So 6.742 is greater. And that's my final answers for both questions. The numbers differ in the tenths place, and 6 and 742 thousandths is the greater number because the 7 is larger than the 3. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 1 right now. Number 2 is a similar problem, so I'm going to solve it in a similar way. The directions say name the greatest place value position where the digits differ and which number is greater. So I have two numbers, 24 and 287 thousandths and 24 and 269 thousandths. So I take my first number and write it down, 24.287. I take my second number, write it underneath, lining up my decimals and all of my columns. There's my decimal, put it underneath. To the left of the decimal I have a 4 and a 2, so I'll write a 4 and a 2. To the right of the decimal I have a 2, a 6, and a 9, so I'll write a 2, a 6, and a 9. Everything's even, there's no zeros that I need to fill in, so I'm going to find the first place value position where the digits differ or are different. So I look all the way on the left side for the 2's, they're the same, they're not different. I got 4 and 4, they're the same, that's not different. I have 2 and 2, that's the same, that's not different. But here I have 8 and 6, those are different. Which one is larger, the 8 or the 6? That's right, the 8, so I'll circle it. So what's the greatest place value position where the digits differ? This is the position right here. How do I figure out the name of that position? Well, when I want to figure out place value positions, I always find my ones column, which is just before my decimal. So this is the ones column. To the right of that I have the tenths column, and to the right of that I have the hundredths column. So the digits differ in the hundredths column. Now the next part of the question says which number is greater, and I always circle the digit that's greater when I first find the differences. I circled the 8, so that number will be greater. 24 and 287 thousandths is the greater number. So I have 2 answers for 2 questions. I'll circle my final answers. Now please stop the video and complete worksheet number 2. Number 3 is an algebra problem, and we know for algebra, when we have algebra, we have blanks that we have to figure out what the blank is equal to. Sometimes the blank can just be an answer line blank, sometimes it could be a square, sometimes it could be a letter. For this problem, I have an answer line blank. So, I'm going to find the unknown digit to make the sentence true. And I notice here that this is a comparison problem. I have 4 and 608 thousandths is less than 4 and something, because there's a blank in it, I don't know what it is, which is less than 4 and 62 hundredths. So what am I going to do to solve this? Same thing I'm doing every time I compare. Write down the first number, 4.608. Write down the second number, lining up my decimals. Here's my decimal. I'm going to put it right underneath there. To the left I have a 4, so to the left I'll write a 4. To the right I have a 6 and a blank, so to the right I'll write a 6 and a blank. Now I'm going to take my next number, line up my decimal. To the left I have a 4, so I'll write down my 4. To the right I have a 6 and a 2, so I'll write down my 6 and my 2. As always, I'm going to fill in any place value zeros, not in the blank, because the blank I have to figure out, I don't know what that is. But underneath the 8 here, there's a digit missing, so I'll put a 0. Underneath that 0, there's a digit missing, so I'll put a 0. Now let's see what I know. I know that in this problem, my first number is less than my second number, which is less than my third number. So my first number is the least, and my last number is the greatest of all of the numbers. So I need to figure out what the missing number is. I always start the way I read a sentence from left to right. I see 4, 4, and 4. They're the same, so that doesn't help me. I move to the right, and I see 6, 6, and 6. They're the same, so that doesn't help me. I move to the right of that, I see 0, blank, and 2. And I know on this left side that I'm moving from least to greatest. So if I'm counting, and I'm going from least to greatest, what number has to go between 0 and 2? 0, blank, 2. Has to be a number that's larger than 0, but less than 2. 0, blank, 2. Oh, 0, 1, 2. So my missing digit has to be a 1, and I'll put that right there. Okay, so it has to go in the order that it says, and notice that these right here are showing me which ones are less and which ones are greater. Would it have made sense if I put a 2 in the line? Well, then my numbers would say 0, 2, 2. No, that's not going to help me. What if I put a 3 in the line? 0, 3, 2. No, that doesn't go in order from least to greatest. 0, 4, 2? No. 0, 5, 2? No. So the only possible option is a 1 for 0, 1, 2. So my missing digit was a 1 in this problem. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 3 right now. Example number 4 is similar to 3, algebra. Find the unknown digit to make the statement true. So I have 73 and 452 thousandths is greater than 73 point something 28, which is greater than 73 and 29 hundredths. So in order to find my missing blank, I'm going to write my first number down, 73.452. I'll write down the second number underneath it, lining up my decimals. There's my decimal, it goes under the other decimal. To the left I have a 3 and a 7, so to the left I'll write a 3 and a 7. To the right I have a blank, a 2, and an 8, so I'll write a blank, a 2, and an 8. Now I move to my next number, there's my decimal, so I line up my decimal. To the left I have a 3 and a 7, so to the left I'll write a 3 and a 7. To the right I have a 2 and a 9, so to the right I'll write a 2 and a 9. I do see that my columns are not all even, so I will fill in a place value 0 right here so that my columns are even. I look back at my original problem and I see that my first number is greater than my next number, which is greater than my last number. So I'm going here from greatest to least. I'll label them greatest to least. So let's compare, starting at the left side, working the way we read a sentence. 7, 7, 7, they're all the same, I cannot compare. 3, 3, 3, they're all the same, I can't compare. But right here I see some different digits. I see a 4, a blank, and a 2. And I know on the left side I'm going from greatest to least. So if I'm going from greatest to least and I'm counting numbers, would I be counting up or down from greatest to least? I'd be counting backwards. So 4, blank, 2. Count backwards. What comes next? 4, 3, 2. That makes my numbers greatest to least. 4, 3, 2. 4 is the greatest, 2 is the least. So 3 is my missing digit. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 4 right now. Let's review. When asked to name the greatest place value position where the digits differ, and then to find which number is greater, I'm going to rewrite my numbers vertically on top of each other, lining up my decimals. If necessary, I'll fill in any place value zeros. That wasn't necessary here. And then I'll compare from left to right. Those are the same, those are the same, those are the same. This is the first place where it differs. Which one's larger, the 8 or the 6? The 8. I always circle my larger number. I need to know the place value position where they differed, so I need to figure out what column the 8 and the 6 are in. So I always highlight my ones column, which comes just in front of my decimal. After the ones would come the tenths, I'll label it T with a TH, then comes the hundredths. So these numbers differ in the hundredths column. Then I needed to know which number is greater, and since I always circle my greater number and I circled the 8, that first number is my greater number, which is 24 and 287 thousandths. When given an algebra problem with a comparison and asked to find the unknown digit to make the statement true, again, I rewrite my numbers vertically on top of each other, lining up my decimals. Then I fill in any place value zeros to make my columns equal. I decide what comparison I have in the original problem. In this case, my first number is less than my second number, which is less than my third number. So if my first number is less than the others, the first number is the least. The last number would be the greatest. I'm going from least to greatest. I compare in the same order that I read from left to right. 4s are the same. When they're the same, I can't compare. 6s are the same. When they're the same, I can't compare. Here's the first place that it differs in. And if I'm going from least to greatest, 0, how do I count from least to greatest? 0, blank, 2, 0, 1, 2. So that would be my missing digit. In this problem, again, I lined up my numbers vertically, lining up my decimals. I filled in my place value zeros, and I noticed that these symbols said that I'm going from greatest to least. My first number is greater than my second number, which is greater than my third number. So my first number is the greatest, my last number is the least. And I compare. When they're the same, I can't. They're all the same, I can't. Here's where my numbers differ. And I'm going from greatest to least. Greatest is largest. So I'm counting from large to small. How do I count? 4, blank, 2. 4, 3, 2. So therefore the missing number is 3. So hopefully by now you can confidently say I can compare decimals and find the first place value position in which they differ. And I can find the missing digit when comparing decimals. We will be doing more practice in class, but as we do that practice, if you still feel that you're having difficulty, please see one of the teachers and we will work with you to make you feel comfortable in saying these learning targets. Good luck with this lesson.